All right. Good afternoon and welcome. We have lots of people streaming into the Zoom room right now. I'm Dean Miller, the President and CEO of PACT, and I want to welcome you to our Healthcare IT Forum, which is including an investor panel and a company showcase where we've got 6 terrific entrepreneurs presenting. We are excited, to co-host this with Troutman Pepper, a long-standing founding leader and supporter of PACT. Chris Miller sits on the PACT board and will be joined by one of his partners, who I will introduce here shortly. This is also sponsored by Independence Blue Cross, EisnerAmper, and Duane Morris, and in partnership with the Philadelphia IT Circle. The FIT Circle, many of you know, has been around for years supporting healthcare IT in the region and beyond. Let me just go through a couple of housekeeping matters. Yeah, this is a webcast, obviously. Attendees, please stay muted. You can ask questions, use the Q&A box throughout the conversations, both for the investor panel as well as for the companies. We'll monitor throughout, as will the speakers, to make sure that we answer your questions. We will start off with an investor panel and then move to the company presentations. We'll go to about 4:30 or maybe a minute or two after that. And then we're going to jump into the Remo virtual event room, where you'll get the chance to network with your fellow attendees. That link will be presented to you in chat, and we'll make sure that you're aware of that so you have plenty of time to click on it and get over to the Remo room. With that, let me introduce our co-sponsor. As I mentioned, Troutman Pepper has been a terrific supporter of PACT for many years. For those of you who are just catching up, Troutman Pepper actually merged in 2020. So Pepper Hamilton merged with Troutman to become Troutman Pepper. And we are excited here today to welcome Tom Dwyer, partner in their in their corporate practice. Tom has been a long-standing supporter of entrepreneurs in this region, previous chair of PACT, the PACT Capital Conference, and really dedicated to the healthcare IT digital health space. Tom, we are so excited to welcome you here today and for the program that you have helped put together.
Thanks, Dean. Really appreciate that. And good afternoon, everyone. This would have been our 4th annual healthcare IT event, but we weren't able to hold it last year. So I'll just say welcome to the Healthcare IT Forum 2021. I know there's probably a few familiar faces, but for those I've not met, as Dean said, I'm Tom Dwyer. I'm a partner at Troutman Pepper, and I'm going to be moderating the investor panel and introducing the companies. We have a really great investor panel today for you, and we have 6 great healthcare IT companies who will present. Thanks for being here. I just want to take a couple minutes briefly to comment and report on the healthcare IT space. As most of you know, the space has been very hot, and there's really has been no sign of slowdown. There's been a few big notable deals already this year. In January, Fitbit was acquired by Amazon. They finished that deal, and it was over $2 billion in value. In April, Privia Health raised $450 million in an IPO. And in May, Patient Ping had a $5 million exit, and Q Health raised $235 million in venture funding. All really large, good deals that can help springboard the space even further. Also, the general trend lines follow these notable deals. Venture funding in the healthcare IT space doubled in 2020 compared to 2019, and there's really been no sign of slowdown. Health tech IPOs and health tech M&A events are also predicted to continue to accelerate. Transitioning closer to home and related to our event in the past, 2 of our past investor panelists, Kane Anderson Capital and Edison Partners, have continued to be very active in the healthcare IT space, with several announced funding and exit events in the recent past. And very nicely, our past presenting companies have done very well as well. Proscia, which is a company I've had the pleasure to work with, raised $23 million in Series B funding for its digital pathology technology. Asarte Medical raised $9 million of Series A funding for its infant diagnostic technology. Neuroflow raised $20 million of Series B funding for its digital mental health technology, and CloudNexa was acquired by NHN, and I was able to assist CloudNexa on that deal. We hope these trends continue, especially for the presenting companies and the investors that we have here today. Before we get started with the investor panel, I just want to give a couple thanks. I want to thank Dean and Heidi and Chris and the rest of the PACT team for their support in organizing this event. And I really want to thank Jen Cuban, our marketing director, who assisted greatly on the Troutman side. Thanks, Jen. All right, so the investor panel, we're going to kick that off now. I'm going to do quick brief introductions. Glen Bressner. Glen, you want to raise your hand there? There's Glen. Glen's the managing partner of Activate Venture Partners. Glen's been a venture investor for over 30 years and has been very active and very successful in the healthcare IT space. We also have Jen Hartt.
Hey
Jen,
there.
where are you? There you are, Jen. Jen's the Director of Investment for Health and Digital Health at Ben Franklin Technology Partners. Ben Franklin is one of the most active early stage investors nationwide and has been very successful in the healthcare IT space, due significantly to Jen's efforts. And we have Tom Olenzak.
Hey, Tom.
Hey, Tom, how are you? Tom's the Managing Director of Corporate Development and Strategic Investment for Independence Blue Cross, where he leads their corporate venture capital program. Tom has been anxiously awaiting to sit on this panel for over a year. When we started organizing this event right before the pandemic, and the first call I made was to get Tom to sit on the panel, and he agreed. So here we go, Tom.
Better late than never.
We have our panel has very diverse investor perspective. Glen's a financial investor. Jen has at least partially a social impact mission, and Tom's a corporate venture capitalist with a strategic purpose. So everyone can get to know you and what your fund does a little bit. Can you each talk a little bit about your fund and its purpose, and maybe the goals that you have? Glen, you want to go first?
Sure. Thank you, Tom, and welcome everybody. Activate Ventures is located, believe it or not, in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Our heritage dates back to 1985 when we started our very first fund. And since that time, we've been largely consistent to a strategy of being a very early stage investor in companies and entrepreneurs located in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and the metro area of New York. That is our targeted region. We like to be the very first outside investor in the ventures in which we get involved with. Typically, we invest somewhere between $1 to $2 million at the outset, with a goal of averaging an investment around $3 to $5 million per company. Given our geographic focus, I characterize our investing strategies investing in the entrepreneurial fallout of the industries that are in our backyard. We work pretty hard to identify individuals who have domain expertise in the markets in which they're trying to build their businesses. And when you think about the market that we're focused on, when you start out in Pittsburgh with the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center complex, moving into Philadelphia, there are more teaching hospitals than any place in the rest of the United States in Philadelphia. And then you go into New Jersey and the metro area of New York, we have more healthcare infrastructure than any place in the United States. So while we're opportunistic, more than half of our investing over our history has fallen into healthcare broadly defined. Probably invested in over 50 companies, about 40 that fall into the digital health category. In terms of our goal, it's to develop a relationship with the entrepreneurs where they view us as committed, constructive outside partners. It's their company and we work for them. Our goal is to be able to support their interests and their goals to build great companies. And if we do that successfully, then we can celebrate on the exit, which we've been able to do on numerous occasions over a long period of time. Thanks, Tom.
That's awesome, Glen. Jen, do you want to go next?
Yeah, hi, thanks, Tom. So I am director of investments for what we've called health and digital health for a while, because we opened up the digital health sector 5 years ago, and I just kind of ended up managing that. We're transitioning to renaming and separating out to Healthcare Investment Group, and digital health will continue to be a part of that. Digital health is, as to number of companies, about half of our investments in across everything healthcare, and about a third of the dollars, because you can get a little bit further dollars wise versus say in a PMA track medical device or a therapeutic. We typically are part of seed rounds and then try to participate in follow-ons and stay active with companies through Series A and Series B. So we're investing up to $500,000 initially. We can go a little over $1 million total in our exposure under our Ben Franklin investing. And then we can do follow-ons out of our Global Opportunity Philadelphia Fund as well. So we can go up to a couple million out of that fund. It's important for us to do our own, even though we're part of a round together with other investors, we do a lot of independent due diligence work. And so even if we're maybe a third of a round, we're still taking our own lead in working through what we think a company needs to tackle. That's important for us. And because we stay involved with companies a little bit later stage, and we've seen a lot of exits, I've been through 30 exits. We've seen a lot in the way of what has worked and what's not. We help try to get that to inform the earlier processes and what companies are thinking about. So pushing some of that information down to the earliest, even the pre-seed. So that's a little bit about us. And so I'll leave it at that.
Nice. Tom, do you want to talk about Independence Blue Cross and your corporate investing?
Yeah, great. I'm happy to. So yeah, we are the venture capital arm of Independence Blue Cross. We invest both as limited partners in venture funds, including a co-investment fund we set up with Jen and Ben Franklin to it's basically help fund a piece of each digital health deal they do. And then we also do direct investments, which is primarily what we'll talk about today. Our focus is a little bit different. While when we invest, we act like a typical venture capitalist. You know, we'll sit on the balance sheet. We typically won't have any special terms or conditions. You know, we're looking to drive the best exit for everybody involved. We'll sit on the board, et cetera, et cetera. Every investment that we make has to have a strategic connection with what our parent company is doing as we look to transform healthcare, not only here in Philadelphia, but especially through our Medicaid subsidiary, really across the country. And that means that every company that we invest in is somehow a partner, a strategic vendor, or is somehow else strategically important and has a business unit leader within the main part of the company. Now, what that means for a potential portfolio company is obviously we have the ability to vet a company as a customer would, and really understand what the need is that you're solving for. If you do become a vendor and a portfolio company of ours, we have the interesting opportunity, again, not only to sit and do what a typical venture investor would do, but we also really try to actively grow value in our portfolio companies. And we found the best way to do that is through business development work. And what we mean by that is working with our own business units and the company to package up the value proposition, why we chose to work with you, and then taking that out to a number of different constituencies. We have a very tight network across the 36 Blue Cross plans that operate across the country. We obviously have a tight network locally and nationally among healthcare providers and so forth and so on. So really trying to drive value once we're invested. And then in terms of investment size, we're really stage agnostic. It's the strategic fit that's most important to us. That being said, our preferred bite size is really, maybe $1.5 million, but really $2 to $5 million up front. And we've gone up to about $20 million in any one company. We're invested fairly heavily locally here. We had a nice exit with Accolade last summer, which you may recall did an IPO. We're investors in Biomeme that actually just moved up here on Broad Street. And probably half a dozen other relay networks out in Radnor. So while we like to invest locally, we certainly invest nationally. So I'll leave it at that. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah. Tom, quick follow-up question. When you do a direct investment, is there always a strategic or operational deal or partnering deal on the business side rather than the investment side, or is that sometimes happens, sometimes doesn't?
So we do have companies in the portfolio where we do not have a direct vendor relationship. 100% of the deals that we've done in the last 2 years have had a vendor component. And as we look out for the next, at least the next year or so, we're probably going to stick to that. So that is, I think it's good for the company. It obviously means that sometimes we have to get a little creative because, you know, as you can imagine, fundraising rounds and vendor deals don't always follow the same timeline. So we have to be creative with some things like warrants and stuff to be able to bridge that gap.
Right. All right, so switching gears a little bit, you know, obviously the topic of discussion over the last year was the pandemic. Curious to know how it changed how you guys have done business, either sourcing deals, doing deals, meeting with people, and how you think that that's going to change or not change things going forward as we, you know, hopefully emerge from this soon. Glenn, do you want to go first?
Sure. Now, given that we have a very tight geographic focus and invest in the vast majority of our investments are in pre-revenue stage companies, so much of our evaluation is really spent on time with the founding entrepreneurs and getting a chance to understand their backgrounds, their motivation, their strategies. And there's nothing like face-to-face interactions to get that sense from our standpoint. And it really does involve a ground game for us to be out in the marketplace. Certainly over the course of this past year and a half, that's been quite restricted. And it did slow our new investment pace. We did make 2 investments during this past year. In both cases, we knew the founding CEOs prior to quote unquote lockdown. In one case, we had previously invested in that entrepreneur successfully in one of my earlier funds. We just did close a new investment this past week in a healthcare IT company. We'd never actually physically met the founding CEO. He is a prior successful entrepreneur in the sector in which he's building a business. So we are trying something that we've never done in my 35 years, which is to roll the dice without actually having a chance to meet an individual. That said, things are certainly thawing. This week we have half a dozen face-to-face meetings with people in our office or outside, which is terrific, and I hope that continues. The pace of investing certainly is going to accelerate. There's a lot of capital available for entrepreneurs who are looking for early stage to expansion stage money. So I think that certainly the supply side of the early stage investing world is plentiful at this point.
And Glenn, at this point, how do you suggest an entrepreneur makes an approach to a venture capitalist like you? What's the best way?
You know, I think certainly direct reach out is acceptable, and we try to be as responsive and respectful of entrepreneurs as we should. They're our customers along with our investors. And so we have to be able to make them comfortable in terms of reaching out to us. That said, you know, when somebody like Tom Dwyer or Dean Miller or Tom Olenzak reach out or have somebody that they know's referred to us, that means a lot. Certainly the respect we have for all of those individuals gives somebody the benefit of the doubt early on. I think, you know, we're trying to be as receptive, but boy, I'll tell you, when you get somebody in the industry who's been around in the professional services world, providing an early introduction, there's nothing quite as effective as that.
I'll just note that Tom and I did not have Glenn say, we didn't put him up. Jen, how about you? How have things changed for you, and how do you expect them going forward?
Sure, it's a great question. And to play off of some of what Glenn talked about, I get that there's a big trust building exercise in investing. And for many, that's kind of the so-called social contact sport, or there's kind of a need to feel like you're really getting to know the founder and can work together. But as somebody who has never been myself that great at reading body language and doing the small talk thing, I do think that there are opportunities in this more virtual environment to focus on helping a company that's trying to raise money be well set up. They can involve more of the founder team or consultants who are involved early on in the company. I can set up a Zoom meeting and expect that I might have a meeting with more of the team than just the founder, who might have otherwise normally been into my office and kind of been selling me on the vision and, you know, maybe wants to do lunch and all that. And I get that that can be an important trust building part of fundraising, but I do like digging in on the fundamentals with more of the team if possible. It's really important to get organized if you're raising money and setting up a data room, making sure you're really well prepared for the opportunity in this virtual world to do more screen sharing and have live sessions where we walk through assumptions and look at your financial model, look at your ROI calculators and do all of that. So there are pluses and minuses here. And I think that if all of us on the investor side and those on the company side think about how to maximize what they can get out of this virtual environment, you can get to that point like Glen described of like writing a check without ever having set eyes on or been in the room with somebody. But you do still need to build a solid trust basis and a thorough understanding of what you're going to be doing together, where this money's going to be bringing you, you know? So, you know, ultimately, sometimes that lies in the Excel spreadsheets instead of in the handshake, you know?
And Jen, how do you like to be approached? I think you have somewhat of a procedure at Ben Franklin.
Yeah, we do, and yet that's in order to be.
Well.
Yeah, we do have a great concierge type function of business development and those who hold office hours, and any of them can tell you more about what we do. But we are very accessible. If somebody wants a meeting with me and wants to really go through their assumptions and needs some investor feedback from somebody who's sitting in these company board meetings and who has done the deals and actually negotiated the deals, including negotiating with other investors, like I get that it's really important to often have that kind of meeting with investors directly. So both doors are open, just to be very clear. And we will look at materials and provide feedback, even if somebody isn't formally kind of going through the process and applying yet. I'd rather get to know people over time, even before they're raising money. I think that sometimes there are, by the time somebody's actively deep in it, raising money and providing everything and saying, I really need to raise money within the next, you know, couple of months, there are sometimes preventable problems that we see. And so it's much better to get out ahead of people, take advantage of the free advice, the mentorship you'll get, and some of the things that you can fix before you're really deep into fundraising, you know, so take advantage of that.
That's great. I found that you and your colleagues at Ben Franklin have been very good at that.
Yeah, well, it benefits everybody. It's a win-win, you know?
Yeah. Tom, how about you?
Okay, I mean, I agree and don't want to repeat with, you know, a lot of the stuff that Glenn and Jen said. I think there's really two things that we've seen in this sort of strange environment we've been operating in. One is, as I think Glenn alluded to, the fact that you can't get out and kind of build those personal relationships tends to skew fundraisings to entrepreneurs who either have a track record or who have a relationship with the investor. And if you're approaching any of us and you don't have that, you know, if you weren't the guy who founded Flatiron Health, if you weren't the guy, if you weren't the person that just exited my last company, then it means you've got to do a little more homework in really thinking about how you approach us and how you present your business to us. One of the things that I've found is that there's an art to running Zoom calls. There's an art to presenting things remotely. You tend to have to be a lot more organized. You know, there are entrepreneurs who kind of have a real force of personality, and that's much harder to use when you're remote than if you're able to sit down with somebody directly. So, you know, really doing your homework and making sure that everything you do really presents smoothly, cleanly, and making sure that you're able to really present the quality of the team that you not only you as the entrepreneur, but the quality of the team that you put together in a way, again, where we're not able to fly out, sit down with you, have dinner with you, really get to know you personally. It's up to you to make that, whatever it is that you put together, shine through. And then the other thing that I think that's a little bit different here is the sales team that you put together in your company. I think one of the important things to understand is what's your sales plan. And I don't mean like your market size and all that kind of stuff, but really tactically, how are you going to sell when you can't travel and visit other people? Most companies we work with, there's 1 or 2 or 3 conferences per year that they go to. And those conferences, they set up their booths, they throw the dinners, that pretty much fills the funnel for the year. And then, you're tracking that down and following it up and so forth and so on. But you have to now be able to build a pipeline, build a sales funnel without those conferences and events, which means a lot more outbound work. And then you have to be able to work through the sales process remotely rather than just spending time camping out at the customer site. And being able to really enunciate how you're going to do that is something that's really, really critical. And it's something, frankly, that a lot of even our more established portfolio companies have been and continue to struggle with. And by the way, I think it's something that, realistically, when this is over, I know people want to get out, but I think travel budgets are going to be somewhat restricted. I think open conferences are going to be somewhat restricted. I think a lot more going forward is going to be done on Zoom and remotely than it is going to be done direct and in person.
Nice. That's great advice, Tom. So I was looking at some information from JP Morgan's healthcare conference, and they had a panel on the future of health where they said, many of the long held perceptions about healthcare and healthcare delivery are changing, and that there's some archaic processes inherent in the healthcare system that we have, which I think everybody probably agree. But they said that 2021 is going to be a nice transition year for healthcare sector. I think a lot of us have already seen that, and a great opportunity for investors. I was just wondering, how are you guys viewing this space? Are there particular sectors you're looking for? Are you getting a mandate internally to push more into the space? Things of that nature. Glenn, do you want to go first?
Sure. I would say that the last year has not changed our thesis. It has accelerated, as you pointed out, Tom, some of the opportunities. If I back up for several decades now, actually a couple of decades, we've been focusing on 2 major themes in terms of where we think opportunities exist. And the first one is the consumerization of healthcare, where with the shifting of the payment burden onto individuals, and now just the amount of information that's available to us as individuals to help manage our healthcare is a multi-generational trend, I think, that you can take advantage of. And we've done that for a couple of decades. We've invested in companies like Access Health, which was the first demand-side solution with Ask a Nurse, the digital pharmacist, Map My Fitness, FSA Store, CareGain. Those are opportunities that we've invested in even before the pandemic. The other major theme is in the move to value-based medicine, where providers and payers are increasingly going at risk. And again, that's been something that's been going on for quite a while. And so both sides of that equation need solutions or automation to help them assume that risk in a much more manageable process. What has accelerated is, in our view, the need on the part of the provider networks, hospitals, to do something in response to having to provide care in a different means than they had historically. So we're seeing the state-owned hospital systems, the payers, move at a pace that it really hadn't been available over the course of the last 2 decades. It seems like that in the last year, you're able to cut deals or arrange partnerships at a much more accelerated basis because those systems need to have technology in order to deliver what they already are. And they're increasingly having, I think about how to continue to do this in a new environment. So in that regard, that's the greatest, I think, change for us is the ability for our companies to get into the market at a much faster pace through some of these relationships. I mean, I never, ever would ever suggest that one of our companies try to bring their products or services in the market through a third-party distribution channel. It's always a direct sale. I think that's required. But I think at this time and moment in where we are, there's real opportunities to accelerate getting into the markets through these relationships. I think that's the biggest change we've seen. You know, our companies getting financial support at a much earlier stage from strategics than they ever have historically.
Jen, how about you?
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of support in the organization for continuing to invest in digital solutions, digital transformation, digital health delivery, all of that. I'm glad we got into digital health investing several years ago so that we could start to see some of the trends and speak from where I sit in that and kind of looking out on what we've seen over the last few years is that it took a while for EHRs to be fully implemented and enough information to be in them. And then for the EHRs to even be able to talk sufficiently enough to one another and for physicians and patients to be using portals and for labs and imaging tests to also be pulled in, you know? So there's a lot of information. And then in the hospitals, there's also a lot of information and a lot of alerts. So we're now at this turning point where the information needs to be used more, you know, kind of smartly and be in the right hands to the right person at the right time. So there's a lot of opportunity now for making sure that there's a filtering and actionability of the information. You know, any information, whether it's coming from a digital diagnostic or anything in healthcare, needs to be something that is has a good kind of signal to noise ratio. Like you have to be able to do something with it. It has to be understandable. It has to be translatable to if it's being converted from one patient and their knowledge level to the physician and vice versa, or across specialties. There needs to be fidelity of information. There needs to be care handoff with information. So we're at this big turning point where the information needs to smarten up and it needs to be usable. AI is a big buzzword and is inserting itself into this information management. We're seeing now the earlier AI efforts yielding some really great things. There's a lot of investor interest in AI and data. There's a lot of interest in data science in this country and in medicine, which is terrific. So there is a lot of opportunity in those areas. We see some of the things in the data science side that include, you know, if you don't train up your AI in a way that can sort through information well, you just end up with a feedback loop problem. So there's a lot of opportunity to get things right and take things into the next decade with these innovations.
No, it's interesting. I think what Glenn is saying and what you're saying is I familiarized myself with, I know some of the companies previously, but the ones that are presenting, I think some of these things that you're talking about, that they are directly trying to solve those issues. So I think it's going to be interesting. The presentation is going to be interesting today. Tom, how about you from IBX's standpoint?
So obviously, you know, we come at this largely from the perspective of the health plan, although we do work very closely with our health provider, our health system partners, our physician partners across the region. We work closely with our employer customers. We work closely with our members to try to look at healthcare from all different angles. One of the things I think that's different, one of the ways I say that the way we're looking at the digital health landscape is evolving, is probably a better way to put it, is this concept that we call whole person health. And so historically, healthcare has really been built around providers or, you know, people suppliers really charge the health plan per input of work, per input that they put into somebody's care. That's the typical fee for service model. And what we're starting to think now is much more holistically, and so the whole system was built around a series of inputs and charging for a series of inputs. And what we're starting to see now is really a focus on taking a step back and really focusing on the member or the patient or the customer, or whatever you want to call them, as a person, and look at the entirety of their situation. So I don't go in to a orthopod just to treat my knee, but I look at that as part of a broader, my broader health picture. And the reason I may have knee problems may be that I'm morbidly obese. So you can fix the knee, you can pay to fix the knee, but that's not necessarily going to help. Or somebody who is hypertensive, they have high blood pressure. You can give them medicine for the high blood pressure, but again, if they're obese, that's not going to, you're not going to solve anything. And they may be obese because they've got some behavioral or other mental issues that are going on that need to be addressed. And if you don't address those fundamental underlying conditions, you're never going to get anywhere on the individual physical conditions. So what we've started to do is really think about, and I'll say there's two sort of main themes. One is thinking about how we can loop all of the different areas of medicine together to look at that whole person. And that, by the way, expands out not just to physical health conditions, but mental, behavioral health conditions. And then it even spreads out further into what we call social determinants of health. If somebody has financial stress and can't afford medication, sending them a text to remind them to take their medication really doesn't help a whole lot. You need to address, again, make sure that they can afford to get that. If people can't afford to eat right, they can't, you send them home from the hospital and they can't afford food, there's a very good chance they're going to end up right back in the hospital. So the first thing we're thinking about is how do we stitch together this whole person view of health? And we're starting to do that on the behavioral side. We just announced a deal with a company called Quartet that really integrates physical and behavioral health through the primary care. And then we're working on extending that with our health system partners here in the region. And that doesn't mean we've made our only decision we're going to make on behavioral health. This is just, I think Quartet is kind of the long pole in the tent on the behavioral strategy, but there's a lot of different things that we're going to need to build around those that we're going to start looking for over the coming months and even years. But thinking about, again, how you put together that large picture. What that means as an entrepreneur is if you have a point solution, the kind of thing that we tended to invest in over the last couple of years, you're going to have to really think how your point solution fits into the larger picture. If you have an online behavioral health tool or program, your program may be one of the things that we link to an analytics-driven routing engine that matches members up with the best program for whatever their specific needs are. So it means you're probably not going to get a contract to cover all 3 million commercial lives we have in the region, but there is a good chance that you're going to fit where you can add the most value and drive the best outcomes within certain subsegments of that population. And then the other thing that we're thinking very strongly about, and this ties into that whole person health again, is site of care, is really breaking away from care being delivered within the walls of a hospital or a doctor's office, or health being something that you travel to go get, and being able to deliver health to our members where they are and deliver it how they want to receive it. So we're looking at a lot of things that look at the member experience in terms of digital health, digital first health, how we can combine digital at home and certainly facility-based health, but really looking to break those barriers. And a lot of the ways we're doing that is through some of our value-based care arrangements, where we're really shifting some of the choice on how and where health is delivered to the person who's actually delivering or providing that health. And that's giving rise to a lot of new models, things like online or remote physical therapy is very appropriate for some situations, but certainly not all. Virtual primary care. We've had that, with telehealth that took off during the pandemic. And that's something that people on both sides, both caregivers and members, have decided they actually like the convenience and it actually works. So what we're doing now is we're going back and rethinking kind of that remote care model. Certainly it's not appropriate for everything like we did it in the pandemic, but for a lot of things, it's as good, if not better. And thinking then how we can rethink the larger care delivery models and delivery value chains, utilizing remote monitoring, utilizing remote care and things like that. So I think those are two of the biggest things that have changed from our viewpoint. And then again, as we look at different solutions and different vendors, thinking not just how you solve the slice of whatever it is you're solving, but really how you fit into the bigger picture, how you fit into the broader picture, and how you'll fit into those priorities of really looking at that whole person, that concept of whole person health.
Thanks, Tom. That's great insight. We want to keep the investor panel quick. We want to get into the company presentations here, and I want to thank Glen and Jen and Tom for their insights. I hope you guys can stay on. The presentations are going to be 6 minutes, quick hitters, and we have 2 minutes for questions and answers. But if we can get some questions from and comments from the investor panel, that would be terrific. So we're going to transition now to the company presentations. Thank you very much, Glen and Jen and Tom. The first presentation is MedDecision. MedDecision's been around for 33 years. We always try to get one or two established companies here at the event to showcase them. MedDecision is a pioneer in care management workflow automation. Their newly appointed CEO, who is a very good friend of mine, Ken Young, is going to present. Ken?
Thanks, Tom. Thanks for having us. Let me just get the presentation teed up here. So good afternoon, everyone. As Tom said, newly appointed CEO here at MedDecision, roughly 6 weeks into the engagement. So happy to be here and happy to talk about MedDecision and what we're trying to do and how we're helping our customers and their patients and members achieve better care. As Tom mentioned, we have been around for 33 years. We definitely are the pioneer in care management, workflow automation, a leader in population health management. And we tie that all together with our data analytics platform to drive those real-time alerts and behaviors inside of our platform. Currently, our structure is we're wholly owned subsidiary of Healthcare Service Corporation since 2008. Our brand that we go to market with is our Aerial Plan. It's a high trust certified SaaS solution across all of our platform. And we also have a healthcare consulting division, Avius, that helps a broad spectrum of healthcare enterprises transform their business as they need. To give you a bit of a snapshot, we have over 50 million consumers or patients on our platform today. We service 85 plus health plans and care delivery organizations. We have over 100,000 users on our Aerial platform, and we have over 260 employees. From an investment standpoint, we have over $300 million invested into the platform, creating one of the largest care management platforms and data analytics platforms in the market today. Some of our most recent acquisitions in the past couple of years have included Access Point Health, Avius, our healthcare consulting group, True North, and GSI Healthcare. GSI was a locally based platform as well that we were happy to bring into the family. To dive deeper, we have 29 health plans across the country, 11 integrated healthcare systems, 14 Medicare, Medicaid lines of business, and 39 other health organizations. We service health plans, government solutions, health systems, and also third-party administrators. So just to give you a breadth of our reach across the customers that we have in service today. Our platform, provides the care management as well as the data analytics to drive population health value-based care models. And we do this through, our entire organization and platform behind us to do that. We also understand that we are more than, we're part of this ecosystem. So we're also looking to drive innovation and support of our customers through an innovative platform with other providers, basically integrating into our platform and extending our platform further for our customers and their members and patients to really drive innovation. So we're looking for partner companies to help extend the platform even further to really drive the value-based care models that our organizations need. So what does this mean? We're able to, our being around for 33 years, obviously we have very, very big, strong partnerships and loyalty. We're able to increase our customers' profitability and competitiveness. We help drive better outcomes and engagement. We also reduce their risk and costs in delivering care. Obviously, with our scale, we provide greater agility and scalability of our platform with its high trust certification across all elements. And we really focus on that data ingestion, value-based care, and then driving it through workflow automation to really drive transformation. We also are really understanding that it's not just about the software, it's also about the services that wrap around that, because you can't just deliver software. So having been there, we drive through our technology, but we also lead with our healthcare consulting to really help our customers leverage and utilize the platform the best way they can. When we look at where we are at, we definitely want to drive a better and more efficient care model. Through our patient engagement applications, we drive the digital transformation that is needed. It's definitely on the smart side and personalized for our patients with a 360-degree view of that patient to really drive better care. When we look at where we service, obviously the commercial, Medicaid, and Medicare, from our healthcare consulting practice, focusing in and driving those business results and required outcomes to help our customers drive through the demands that they have, through our healthcare consulting, I should say. These are just some of the longstanding client relationships we've had and some of the quotes that they have. I won't go through those, but I will pause and see if anyone has any questions. Tom?
Sure. There wasn't any posted, Ken.
Sure.
Any questions for Ken from the investor panel? All right. Ken, thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom.
All right, we're going to move to BioT Medical. BioT has developed a cloud-based platform to enable medical device manufacturers and pharma companies to more easily connect patients with caregivers. Daniel Adler, who's the co-founder and CEO, is going to present. Daniel?
So can you hear me?
Yeah, sure.
Great. Hi, everyone. As Tom mentioned, my name is Daniel Adler, and I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of BioT. We are an Israeli startup in the digital health domain, providing connected care platform to unlock the full potential of digital health fast. Basically, medical device and pharma companies today are facing significant challenges when trying to transform their medical devices into connected care solutions and enabling them to be remote. And it's quite difficult for several reasons. Firstly, remote care involves collecting data from patients, which over the internet, which introduces new risks like privacy violations and cybersecurity threats. That's a significant gap that most device companies are not able to cope with or solve on their own. Secondly, medical device companies today are used to building hardware that are operated by professionals. But when addressing home care, we face with patients which are not professionals, So companies must discover new ways to help them, ways that must be simple and still be remote. So this is where we step in as BioT with our CCC approach of connected care platform and off-the-shelf SaaS solution that helps enables medtech and pharma companies to securely connect their devices to a regulated cloud environment with a wide range of features covering domains of connectivity, collaboration, and care. How does it really work? Basically, BioT is an open development framework that enables easily to connect any medical device to our software development kits and application programming interfaces to the BioT Connected Care platform, and where medtech and pharma companies can seamlessly utilize and run their own algorithms via our plugin mechanisms. And moreover, it enables them to easily modify almost any of our system building blocks and utilize the BioT console and sample applications to build up their own solution in a snap with minimal code development, if at all. So not only that we provide an off-the-shelf connected care platform, which reduces dramatically the time to market and cuts significantly the cost, we also offload security and privacy liabilities related to data transfer and storage, and by that we are reducing customers' risk and exposure. We save normally up to 80% of the time and cost to get to market with our platform, and up to 5 times of the ongoing operational costs by providing built-in remote care and patient engagement workflows. BioT supports multiple use cases across different areas of care, starting from remote device management, remote patient monitoring, patient adherence, drug and device delivery and efficacy, proper use, remote patient monitoring reimbursement, and many others. One example of our customers, it's Nerivio, an FDA-approved migraine therapeutic device company, which is utilizing BioT to remotely monitor and collect patient conditions, engage with them through questionnaires and diary management modules to better understand their situation and build the largest database in the world for figuring out why migraines happen. They have managed to do it with us in only 4.5 months versus 18 months originally planned, and they also managed to reduce by 66% their costs. Our differentiators are around self-service capabilities, which provide an open platform with no limitation on customization. Our BioT console and plugin functionalities provide unique value proposition that none of our competitors support, and enable device companies to use no-code interface to customize their solution and run their own algorithms on the collected data. On top, we hold several patents around adherence, prediction, and multi-region services related to privacy. We are operating in an area where you have more than 45,000 device companies who need or will need connectivity at one point or another. And this number is growing with pharma companies getting into this connected care space as well. Still, it's a blue ocean where less than 1% of the products are actually connected. And BioT is relevant for at least half of those companies based on where they are from development cycle, their size, their willingness to go with outside partners, of course, rather than trying to build one-off solution on their own. The addressable market today is around $1.8 billion, and it's growing 30% year over year, up to about $9 billion in 2028. Our go-to-market strategy is focused first on home care market, which is growing exponentially due to COVID and technology developments, and where the need is actually imminent and process move quickly, and where government regulation provides significant incentives like remote patient monitoring reimbursement. Later, we plan to extend and reach also tier 1 medtech and pharma companies and also healthcare organizations. Our business model is quite simple. It's SaaS, and we get paid by utilization of the BioT platform and according to the number of devices that are connected to it, where we estimate that our revenue will be around an average of 1% of the customer's product line revenues. We plan to sell both directly and also through system integrator partners. As retention in our business is high due to regulation aspects, the average product lifetime is 10 years, and we are talking about the potential of $10 million per each customer. We have more than 20 customers already paying ones today, ranging from well-funded startups to companies such as Fibro, which is a $1 billion US-based Nasdaq-traded company. On top, we have a strong partnership with AWS, where many of our customers are actually an outcome of that relationship. We also started recently to build our channel partnership program in the US and Europe, and we are seeking to join forces with key system integrators in those areas. In our pipeline, we have many customers, also giant ones like Medtronic and AstraZeneca. Our team includes healthcare experts, medical device interpreters, cybersecurity leaders, and highly experienced co-founders, both in business, product, and R&D. We just finalized our first round of investment in a sum of $6.5 million backed by 3 VCs, And we also got $800K grant from the Israel Innovation Authority for developing our next generation AI capabilities. We are located in Israel and seeking now to hire 10 more developers to join our 30-people team, and in order to ramp up the product development. And we are also seeking people in the US to build our sales and support workforce, and looking for key opinion market leaders to join our advisory board. In addition, we plan to start our next investment round in Q1 2022. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Daniel. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, this is Jen with Ben Franklin. Question for you, Daniel. So, I mean, you are internationally minded, and it looks like your customer base is the medical device companies themselves. How are you positioning yourselves with the incentives in, especially the US market, that might have the ones who care most about this device working out really well are, say, the surgeon who implanted it and the payer who needs to see that the outcomes are good with it? Can you talk a little bit about what model you might have in your business model that can address the particularities of the US market?
So one of the things that we are working on right now is to enable our remote patient monitoring reimbursement a module that will enable to issue reports to cope with the CPT codes that are existing today, that enable, the remote monitoring of different chronic conditions, if it's a COPD or if it's heart conditions, by the doctors from remote, and enabling to issue the reports and the summary of those so they can actually submit it for reimbursement. So this will come as part of our FAR platform. And of course, all the abilities to remotely real-time monitor the vital signs and also offline monitor them. These are part of the functions that we already have and supporting in our system. I hope it answers the question.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Daniel. Seems like you guys are on your way.
Thank you.
The next presenter is BioStream Technologies. BioStream has developed a science-backed video game therapy to assist children on the autism spectrum as their first product. Harry Shiavi, the CEO, is going to present. Harry?
How's that? You guys see the screen?
Yeah, we can see that.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot, Tom. Harry Schiavi, CEO of BioStream Technologies. I've got over 30 years of experience in the biopharmaceutical area and medical device across just about every aspect of commercialization, pre-launch, launch, loss of exclusivity, et cetera. We're here to talk about BioStream. You know, the bottom line about what we do is we're an innovative healthcare tech company, and we develop evidence-based adjunctive therapies and assessments using a sophisticated eye tracking technology and delivering it via an immersive game experience. So it's for people with neurological disorders, and our first area of focus is autism. So let's talk a little bit about autism. Basically, everybody probably knows somebody with autism. I happen to have a son born with autism, and there's a reason that there's usually somebody with autism, and that's because 1 in 40 kids in the United States have autism, and that number is up about 275% since 2000. It's about 1.5 million. The scary thing about this is 84% of all US counties have zero capability to diagnose autism. So that number, we're really talking about the tip of the iceberg. Okay, so when you think about it, you know, the challenges that, you know, that we're really trying to solve, that we're up against, is there's simply not enough therapists. There's not enough people to deliver therapy or to diagnose it in the country. The demand for therapists has gone up 2,000% in the last 10 years. It's an extremely labor-intensive therapy and a labor-intensive process to diagnose and treat. It's also time intensive. So you have this labor-intensive, time-intensive situation, you've got an underdiagnosis situation, and the fact is that it's expensive as well. You know, the Autism Speaks did an assessment that said, look, depending on your level of severity, it's going to cost about $1.4 to $2.4 million for kids with autism for their treatment. You know, what are the other challenges, the specific challenges that we're trying to address with our particular assessments and therapy and adjunctive therapies? It's really eye contact, attention, and emotion recognition. So those are the two things, and those are critical. They're key social skills deficits in children with autism. And as they grow, scenes like this, scenes that you're seeing up on the screen of kids being ostracized, hard time, you know, interacting with other kids, that's real. I can tell you as a parent, that is real. And as a parent, you'll do whatever it takes. You will go through whatever wall to get that kid something that works. You see, when you're born, there is a connection. The eye contact and connection that you establish is critical for your development. And for some reason, kids with autism just there's some wiring issues. They don't get that eye contact, they don't get that connectivity, and they don't build those sort of neurological connections. And if we were to have something that would help with that situation, they'd have better connectivity, better relationships, better quality of life for the kids, the parents, the teachers, the friends, and so on. It's really the fundamental aspect of human interaction. So if we had a pill that could actually help this, so if there was a pill out there, you know, that could actually help this and give you results in 6 weeks, would you invest in that? Well, I certainly would. And the problem with that is there is no pill. Okay, it doesn't exist. But there is hope, because what we have and what we've spent years developing is Lookware. And what Lookware is, and this is the minimum viable product right here, but what Lookware, it combines applied behavioral analysis, which is the only thing that works and is very labor intensive and is reimbursed or mandated reimbursement in all 50 states and DC. It combines that with unique eye tracking technology that's evolving, you know, by the minute. And it puts all of that into a novel game-based experience. And we're collecting data on that experience in milliseconds, every millisecond, and sending it to the cloud for reporting. How we're able to do this is using something called gaze contingent eye tracking, where basically we capture where somebody's looking, and then we instantaneously adapt to the patient and adapt their experience to impact how they learn and where they look and what they see. It's an expertise that has allowed us to develop this technology over the years, and it really helps us impact the systems that are responsible for focus and attention. We have an eye contact module, we have an emotion recognition module. We did a 6-site randomized clinical trial that has just been published in the Journal for Autism Development Disorders this week. If you only use this product 3 times a week for 6 weeks, we see a 25% increase in their ability to recognize emotion, with a 98% ability, or I'm sorry, a 98% liking. In other words, the kids liked it or liked it a lot. So the team that we have is really a crackerjack team here. We've got over 200 years of experience, of relevant experience across just about every aspect of commercialization that you would want. We've got major companies represented, and really, like I say, 200 years of experience. They're not taking a salary right now. What we're really looking at is we're looking at, you know, basically finding the right partner that really understands and supports our mission, that can contribute and build out our network. And we're looking for a raise for initial commercialization. We are ready to go into a pilot to work out the reporting software. And right after that, we plan on commercializing, and we need money for that, as well as product development to get it from the computer to actually to be able to be downloaded onto any computer. So that's who we are. And questions?
Who is your customer?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we are, our customer are the BCBA therapists that are the quarterback of all therapy for a child with autism. And so right now our customer is the BCBA therapist that is providing the ABA therapy, and the organizations that they are being consolidated. So we're intending on going to the large organizations and selling this particular device and its and this adjunctive therapy and its assessment to them. We are not going direct to parents. That is always a backup route for us. As a parent, I know that I certainly would pay for this if it was around, but we want to go to a learned intermediary and use them as the conduit.
Harry, we got another question about the regulatory requirements, and I know you've, because I work with Harry, you've looked into that, and I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. We spoke with the FDA because of the relationships we have in the industry over the decades. We spoke directly with the FDA, and right now all indications say that we could get a 510K clearance but we don't have to. It really depends on how we position it. And right now we're intending to go out without FDA clearance, but it is something that is on our radar, and we can pull that lever if and when we want to.
Harry, thank you very much.
You bet. Thank you.
Great job.
Thanks.
Next company is Remedy, pronounced Remedy. And Remedy has developed a cloud-based disease testing and treatment workflow management solution that is patient-centered and user-friendly. David Stefanich is the co-founder and CEO, and he will present.
Hey, thanks, Tom. Thanks a lot for having us out here today. Thanks for everyone joining us. Again, I'm Dave Stefanich, co-founder and CEO of Remedy. Our global vision is to expand patient access to high quality healthcare and to make healthcare more efficient, effective, and available to all. From my time as the CIO of a global automotive manufacturer to the CTO of an international pharmaceutical company, it just never made sense to me that you could track a spark plug from a factory to a vehicle better than we can track diagnostics and treatment administered to patients. Unfortunately, healthcare still relies on manual data entry that is prone to human errors, paper records that are expensive and cumbersome, and data and privacy breaches which increase risk and liability. Ultimately, these issues prevent partners from collaborating to provide better healthcare. Our connected health platform prioritizes a simple patient experience. Our streamlined workflows improve clinical productivity, increases patient engagement. We capture patient health information as FDA real-world evidence, enabling remote patient monitoring, making clinical trials and post-market surveillance more efficient, accelerating time to market and wellness. Our patented blockchain-based data privacy and security unlocks value from strategic partnerships by eliminating data sharing risks. In 2018, my co-founder Jason and I formed Remedy by working with the WHO, the Mongolian government, and Cepheid to quell the Hep C problem in Mongolia. We saw the immense value of how the digital workflow platform could systematically test and treat our entire country for infectious diseases. I mean, for us, COVID-19 was just another disease that we had to overcome. However, the pandemic proved what we already knew to be true, that investment in connected healthcare is vital and continues to be a growing sector with a total addressable market of $164 billion over the next 5 years. Our connected health platform offers 5 comprehensive solutions for our clients: test, treat, monitor, research, and manufacturing. The management layer is common to all of our solutions, providing real-time oversight, monitoring, reporting, and administration. The architecture of our platform is cloud-based and supports mobile access through browser web app, enabling us to utilize low resource scenarios in emerging markets. As I mentioned earlier, as the CIO of a Fortune 500 pharmaceutical company, where I focused on deploying supply chain technologies and automating FDA manufacturing quality controls and compliance. Our co-founder, Dr. Jason Cross, was a Duke professor and founding director of a health innovation and intellectual property think tank. As our chief strategy officer, Jason works with our strategic clients and global health experts to cultivate our long-term partnerships and create value for our client base. Our chief operating officer, Deepak Hatplat, is a technology commercialization and venture capitalist specialist. Deepak collaborates with our clients as we commercialize our platform and expand our use cases across these pipelines. We have engaged powerhouses of healthcare industrial leaders as part of our advisory board. For example, Jose Arrieta, the CIO and Chief Data Officer of Health and Human Services during the pandemic, and Ben Brednick is the SVP of Corporate Development and Strategy at Syneos Health, the second largest global clinical research organization in the pharma and biotech industry. We contract with our clients on a monthly subscription basis with a transactional volume component, as well as an initial implementation fees. For our research clients, we also charge for professional services for FDA filings based on the Remedy data set. I'd like to take a moment and walk you through a research study with our testing campaign at Clemson University during the past school year. Clemson had a spike in positive COVID cases as the school began resulting in negative press. 48 hours after contacting us, we were deployed and testing the first 1,500 students. Over the course of the pandemic, our program scaled to 25,000 students, staff, faculty, and community members once a week throughout the semester. There are 3 key points I want to highlight here. First, through our testing and strategy, we have reduced positive COVID cases on campus 95%. Second, our testing center operates with a staff of 15, and through our platform, we're able to test 5,000 patients a day. Our staffing partners have told us without our software, they would need up to 75 personnel on site. And lastly, the value Remedy brings to the table in terms of lower labor cost and higher volume also extends to our CLIA laboratory customers who have doubled their volume in the first 2 months using Remedy, increasing their revenues and margins and expanding their sales opportunities. As I mentioned, Remedy initially focused on treating Hep C and then COVID. Right now, we are developing our clinical diagnostic module, expanding our platform to over 2,000 other diagnostic tests for our CLIA lab clients, which will be completed in the next 2 months. Our future vision is to expand use of our platform across all 5 of the solutions from test, treat, monitor, researching, and manufacturing. We're already working with clients in these sectors who are using our platform to break down the barriers between those segments and seize value from our connected health platform. Our long-term strategy unlocks the value of patient health data, which is an R&D goldmine, and provides our clients with a value-based solution and compounded value throughout the patient lifecycle. Our solution management and patent pending architecture provides our clients with significant more value than our competitors. This has resulted in strong collaborative partnerships where our clients incorporate Remedy's value proposition into their sales cycle. To date, we have raised over $3 million in capital, which has enabled us to grow the revenue in 2020 from $400,000 to $4.7 million. In 2021, we expanded our client base from 4 to 17 clients and are projecting over $10 million in revenue for the year. We are in the middle of raising our convertible note round with approximately $2 million remaining. The proceeds will be used to continue development of our platform and features, build our sales team, and invest in a market position for us in a long-term revenue growth and success. Thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate any introductions to new clients, and if you're interested in investing, we'd be happy to dive further into our company. Thank you.
David, thanks a lot. I guess you kept that Clemson football team playing.
I think Jim Clements mentioned we saved Clemson $45 million of revenue, so I got pretty good season tickets, Tom.
That's great. That's great.
Yep.
All right. Any questions for David? All right. Fantastic. Thanks a lot, David.
Thank you.
Our next company is ReferWell. ReferWell has developed an EMR agnostic operational support technology, which helps providers to significantly increase efficiencies. Vitas Kisilis, the CEO, will present.
Hey, thanks, Tom.
Thanks,
Vitas
Vitas.
Kisilis here, as Tom said, and I'm the CEO of ReferWell. We're a digital health company that is revolutionizing care delivery by solving the last mile problem in healthcare. I'll say up front, we're not fundraising at present, but I never say never. And maybe when you hear our story and learn what we're doing, want to talk about what we're doing in the future and down the road, maybe talk about that. But let's start with the why of our company. So the sad fact is that at least half the time when you get a referral to another doctor, you don't go. And that's costing the industry a bundle in terms of other outcomes that are bad. And when the people do go to the visit, quite often they go to an out-of-network provider. And that happens because there are no tools to really drive the person to the right specialist. So most people think that the EMR system, the electronic medical record system, is built to do that, but it really isn't. It's just a place to keep the patient record. And when you go through the referral process in an EMR, it just asks you, where do you want to send this stuff? But there's a referable moment. And at that moment, if I could provide some insight into the decision and help get the person to the right provider, I would make a big difference. So that's what our platform does. It's cloud-based, so it sits atop or beside or in some cases linked into the EMR at the provider. Got a Best Provider Facing Solution Award at an Health 2.0 conference. So it's very simple to use, but very powerful. We start with a provider directory that we have cleansed to make sure the data is accurate. And then we make it really easy for the primary care provider or a care navigator trying to reach the person on the phone to get an optimized search that shows the right specialist. Take the insurance, has the right specialty and subspecialty, has the right responsiveness and their availability. And you can book the appointment for that person right at the point of care or the call. And what that does is it significantly increases the patient's follow-through rate. And then in addition to the software, we have an operations team that follows up with the providers at the specialist side and make sure they understand the importance of closing the loop back to the primary provider so that care can be coordinated. And then of course, our system is tracking all of the outcomes, all of the referral transactions as they go. So what has this done to impact care? So I've got a bunch of statistics on the chart. I won't read them to you, but in essence, it breaks down to three things. We get more people to go to the right provider. We get the specialist to close the loop much more often than they do absent a system like ours. And at the end of the day, we improve the payer's cost, the provider's efficiency, and the care outcomes of the patients. So we're targeting a small part of the large healthcare market, just the Medicare Advantage plans, managed Medicaid plans, and then ACOs and provider networks like hospitals and health systems, and then federally qualified health centers that are the basic building block of all of the managed Medicaid plans. $1 billion on care transitions today, and we see that growing rapidly in the future. We price our system in whichever way they can buy it. So we can go to the managed care plans with a PMPM model. We go to the health networks with a network-wide price. And we can also price on a per use basis, per referral basis, if they want to make us part of the medical loss ratio. So if I showed you this chart at the beginning of the year, one of those market areas, now we're up to 3, 2, and 4 and growing rapidly. So we're on a kind of a growth tear at the moment. We're up to about 5 million covered lives in the US. We've doubled the provider database that we have from the beginning of the year to now, and we're anticipating doubling it again by year end. And maybe the most important sort of measure is that our annual recurring revenue, December of last year to December of this year, is going to increase 6 to 8-fold about this. And we've done all of this with our current direct sales. In addition to that, we're starting to go to partners that have relationships with the health plans, and in the spirit of both magnifying and accelerating our ability to get revenue, but also shortening the time from a sale to revenue actually hitting our books. We're talking now with several very large risk adjustment firms that are taking our execution capability of the last mile and using it for their value position as they go to the payer market. So we're very excited about that. I think Glen mentioned in his talk how important it is to be able to leverage that. The team that we've assembled is about 100 years of experience on both the provider side and the payer side of the business. So we understand both of the elements quite well. But maybe equally importantly, we're advised by very healthcare savvy investors. So our lead investor is Health Catalyst Capital out of New York, and Connecticut Innovations digital health team out of Hartford. We've got the former CFO of Aetna and a co-founder of Health Advocate as a board member. So we've got terrific insight and advice. But that said, I would love to get introductions from any of you to either health payers or provider networks that you think would be good candidates for our service. I'm going to close with just a simple observation. Software that isn't used, no matter how good it is useless. So it's really important for us to make sure that the people using our software, which are their providers, see the value of this, both administratively making them more efficient, but also improving their patients' care. That's why I love this quote, because I was talking to a bunch of providers in South Carolina, and this guy stopped me during the presentation and said, "So Vitas, you mean to tell me that you've made doing the right thing the easy thing?" And that's a great quote because it gets to the heart of the matter. If the providers see the value and use it, then the payers derive the benefit of reduced cost, getting more care gaps closed and improving their revenues, and provider networks can better manage more efficiently the risk they take and control their costs. So I'm about out of time. I would love to talk to you more about the business, and we'll be here in the
Vitas, there was one question in the chat here for you, which I'll start with. Let me see here. I'm having trouble opening it up. Here we go. Who is your direct competition, and don't large systems, IDX, et cetera, that are installed system-wide already provide immediate appointment scheduling across physician specialties? Vitas, are you there? We may have lost Vitas, so if he comes back on, we'll have him answer that question. In the meantime, we'll move to the next presentation. We've had great companies. We had our sixth one is also a very interesting, very neat company. I'm excited to hear about this one. Ambra Medical has an innovative technology that creates analytics from MRI scans and offers objective, precise, accurate, and repeatable measurements which enable better healthcare decisions and interventions. Eric Converse is the CEO, and he will present. Eric?
Hello, everyone. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Very good. I'm Eric Converse. I'm the CEO of Ambra Medical. We're a digital health company focused on muscle composition biomarkers from MRI scans, whole body MRI scans. Our vision is to leverage all the data available from MRI to improve patient health. By doing so, we're looking to take subjective reads by a radiologist and turn them into objective reports. We want to leverage an individual's efforts into automated services, replace invasive procedures such as a biopsy with comorbidity issues with imaging procedures, and then take advantage of our reference data to provide personal results for the patient. We also need to be easily deployed across the most commonly used MRI scanners, and then leverage the cloud for our global use. Our technology is key to our success. Our fast protocol benefits the patient, and it uses MRI cost efficiently. Our patented technology replaces the human eye like no other technology available at present. We can add new measurements quickly as a result of our advanced machine learning. Our precision, accuracy, and repeatability are well published. Automation allows for our scalability in a global offering. As you can see, we're covering over 80% of the world's scanners at present. Our data is also critical to our success. All efforts for building data from the UK Biobank are funded by Pfizer commercially, and we're beginning to add more studies from around the world to add to our database. Ambra has one platform set up to merge our technology and our data, both for research and clinical offerings. Ambra's solution is easy to use. There's no software distribution, no on-site visit needed to get started, only remote protocol installation on the MRI. Everything moves through the cloud. There's no issue with personal data being shared with Ambra. Once the images are received, they run through our analytics, get quality control clearance, and the delivery of the report is back through the cloud. Just as we started our commercialization efforts in 2019, National Geographic recognized our patent-protected technology as part of the future of medicine. Our first clinical application will be for sarcopenia. Sarcopenia is becoming more widely recognized in end-stage diseases. This negatively affects both the quality of life and healthcare costs. Starting in liver transplant and then taking the next 3 years to develop cirrhotic liver and oncology patient offerings will have Ambra firmly in this growing billion-dollar market within the next 3 years. Our solution is a simple and easy to read report. There's two key focus areas. The first is the muscle assessment score. That's mass represented by those two numbers. The second is a graphical illustration of the patient being represented there by the black dot. So with this report, the clinicians can make decisions to proceed as planned or take intervening action to ensure a positive patient outcome in a cost-efficient manner. AMR has no direct competitor today, and any potential would be years behind. We only focus on patients already getting an MRI, and we're just adding a few minutes to that time already allotted. So we're not competing with other technologies. And a great example of that, if someone is going into the MRI and you want to look at the whole body, you can capture this in just minutes and put it on their personal health record. There's no commercial solution which exists like this at present, and any indirect competitor would not have the contextual data that AMR has for individualized patient care. AMR's greatest asset is our team. Good people, good results. I'm a CEO who was recruited by Pfizer 2 years ago to commercialize AMR's offering. This is after my last CEO role, where I was recruited by Merck and increased the business I took over by 5-fold and sold it to a NASDAQ firm within 3 years. Our founders drive our core technology development in Sweden and remain close to their academic roots at Linköping University. Operations is based out of Sweden to ensure a tight relationship with the development. Rosemary Schull is someone I took from my last company because she actually drove the effort to lead the sales by the 5x increase. Additionally, our scientific advisory board is represented by some very well-known institutions, and they're both representing here from radiology and from hepatology. And we're looking to start studies with each of these this year. AMR has 2 revenue streams. Clinical research leads to repeat business. We have over $5 million of backlog of signed contracts from companies such as Lilly, Novartis, and Pfizer. The medical device will really be driving the value. In advance of the commercialization at the end of 2022, we're focused on our initial medical device studies with Mayo, Columbia, UPMC, and University of Chicago to validate these outcomes to support our clinical sales. I'm looking for new investors. AMR has raised $22 million to date. And for this round, I have $5 million from my current investors, Pfizer, Novo Holdings of Novo Nordisk, and an industry fund and who's part of the Swedish pension fund. I have an additional $5 million, which is soft circled. So I'm looking to add $2 to $3 million from other sources. I'm available for further discussion and my contact details are here. Any questions?
Thanks, Eric. This is Jen Hartt. Just a quick question. So is your customer then the radiology centers themselves, and do you have to integrate with the OEM provider software, or what point in the clinical workflow is this needing to plug into other software and being then inserted back into the clinical workflow?
So the nice thing about it with the 3 major manufacturers, to get our protocol, GE installs it at the factory, so it's already on there. Siemens has it on their website, so you can download it. And for Philips, we can just email it to the site as we're setting them up. So that's the very nice part about it. We're looking to have the hepatologist, or the surgeon is the one who's the customer who will be ordering this as part of, as I said, initially we're going after liver transplant patients. So they'll be ordering that, but we just have to make sure that the radiologist is aware of the service offering we have, because it will allow them to grow their budget within the hospital, but not their workload, because it's completely outsourced.
Mm-hmm. So it's good to have some optionality. I mean, OEM providers had years back been a little more notoriously difficult to deal with in wanting semi-exclusive licenses, most favored nation terms, wanting you to readjust the license terms if it's going in at manufacturing. Have you run into those issues, or how has it been working early on with this model?
No, there haven't been any issues like that. One of them was hoping, as part of their platform offering, that we could have more of a commercial relationship with them taking a cut. Our protocol is easy to get anywhere. It's just if we want to be part of their platform offering, and I do have a deal with Siemens like that, but that's really not what I'm looking to drive this. Because for us, the protocol should be easy for anyone to get. It's the service and how we're going to do that. And right now we do it through a third party who does the transferring of all the images. It has no relation to us, but a very stupidly similar name, Ambra. And they're the ones moving the images around and making sure that none of the personal health information gets to us.
Right, got it. And then I see a couple of other questions in the chat. So I don't know if Tom wanted to relate out the questions or if you want to read them. Joe Camerata asked about reimbursability of the reports, and there was another question.
I don't see the questions.
Yeah, that's okay. So I or Tom could read them.
Hold on, I was on mute. There was just one question. It looks like it just went to the panelists. The question is, give me a second here.
Yeah, so Joe asked if the scan and report is reimbursable.
So right now we are looking literally in 2 weeks to have our regulatory submission go into both the US and the EU, followed by Canada and the UK. We're just starting our reimbursement process now, but the reason why we're going after liver transplant first is because that's a direct billing to the transplant center as part of the DRG. But as I mentioned, that we're expanding into cirrhotic liver care and oncology. That's going to take me the next 3 years to get the data and the reimbursement strategy together, which I'm literally starting now. So we're ready for commercialization efforts of those two offerings.
Got it. So the pharma partnering model, and we saw that in your projections, is pretty critical then to getting data as well early on in your product development?
No, interestingly enough, our relationship with the UK Biobank is what's really driven our database, and we've been able to set up virtual control groups. So when I talk about making it personalized to the patient, we're using over 50,000 in that data set to actually say, well, if someone is this sex and this BMI, this is what I would expect them to look like. Do they look like this or not? And that's how you're getting more of an understanding of the individual context.
Got it. Okay, from the biobank.
So you have a historical data set. You're not creating it as you go. You actually have something historical you can compare.
And it's large enough with 50,000. Yeah.
And well published. And what I mentioned is we're also adding more data sets around the world. We're involved in one in Singapore, which helps us get that Chinese population. We're in the Dallas Hartt study for the African and Latin American population. So it just will grow over time, but it's primarily UK Biobank at this time.
Got it.
Let me just see if there was any other questions.
Yeah, the other one was just saying they got kicked out of their Wi-Fi by the storm. So.
Yeah, there's one question in there if Vitas wants to answer that in the chat, but I think we're a few minutes over here. We kept pretty much on schedule. But Eric, thank you so much. Interesting company you're building, and good luck to you.
Thank you.
Dean, I will kick it back to you at this point.
Tom and everyone, thank you so much. Those were incredible presentations. Tom, great job to you and your team for selecting the companies. And thank you to everyone. We had a great audience that got the opportunity to see the pitches. And you should all have a PDF that has more details as well as connection pieces. Heidi just posted the Remo Room connection. Again, click on that. You can go live to a Remo Room where we can do some networking for about a half hour or so. But again, I want to thank Troutman Pepper and led by Tom Dwyer for their leadership in the digital health space, for all they do for entrepreneurs. Also thank our other sponsors, Independence Blue Cross, EisnerAmper, and Duane Morris. And also just note, we are going to be doing our first big in-person event. So if you have not heard, the Enterprise Awards celebration, not the awards part, is going to be live and in person outdoors on June 29th at Springfield Country Club. Again, an outdoor event, an opportunity to connect with your fellow entrepreneurs, investors, and executives from the region. we're excited to be able to do that and look forward to that, and certainly getting back more and more normal as the year progresses. With that, again, thank you all the panelists, to all the entrepreneurs, and again to Tom and Troutman Pepper for your leadership.
Thanks, Dean.
Click on, again, you'll find it in chat right now. As you move over to Remo, we'll keep this open just for another couple seconds, and hope to see you over there at a table, be able to connect in person for a few minutes. Take care, everyone.
Thanks.